A lot of population news popping this week, and even before the new year, we had the latest annual population estimates from the U.S. Census showing Illinois in a decade of decline. And then we had, non-government reports from United Van Lines dropping this week, as well as U-Haul dropping a separate report this week showing Illinois losing population. But yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker's office announced that the U.S. Census has agreed to add an additional 46,000 people to Illinois' population. What's going on here? Let's take a moment to talk with Ted Dabrowski from Wirepoints, who we're also going to chat with him about crime in Chicago wrapping up in 2023 and what it looks like there. So, Ted, thanks for taking time with us this morning with Bishop on Air. So I guess break it down for us. What did you see in the governor's report yesterday on the U.S. Census?
Yeah, so the governor's been working really hard trying to increase population in any way he can. He's denying the population crisis that Illinois has. And he got some good news apparently from the census, according to what he's reported. And they said that they found a whole bunch of places, I think, for elderly people, different settings where dormitories, where 47,000 people were undercounted in the last 2020 decennial census. So good news for him is that he's finding some more people. The bad news is it does nothing to change the trend that Illinois is in. We're losing people. We've been losing people for a long time, especially relative to the other states in the country. We just lost 250,000 more people the last 3 years, according to the census estimates. So it's good that he found 47,000 people, but it's been so bad, this population decline relative to other states, that we've lost congressional representation in a huge way. We used to have 27 congressmen. Now we have 17, and we're predicted to lose 2 more. So this big population shift, this migration between states, is having a massive impact on Illinois, its tax base, and its representation in Congress.
So does this at all change the trajectory of Illinois? Again, a decade of decline, and it looked like it was ramping up, right? I mean, year after year after year, it went from like 10,000 to all of a sudden over 107,000. Last year, those numbers were a bit softer, but still negative. But I have yet to get a clear answer from the U.S. Census if this new addition is added to that report that came out last month. So they're still getting to the bottom of that. They do confirm that they've agreed with several states on updating numbers, but whether or not those numbers were added to the softening of December's numbers, yet to get clear answers on that. But does this at all change that trajectory of Illinois losing population?
Greg, it does. I mean, if you look at just the last year alone, the census estimates where we lost again for the 3rd year in a row since that 2020 census. We lost 32,000. So maybe if he found 47,000, that makes up for last year's loss in population. But here's the big problem is, when you talk about the outmigration of people moving between states, look, Texas grew last year, right? We're talking about 47,000 found. Texas grew by 470,000 just last year. They grew by over 4 million people in the last decade. Florida, 2.8 million. That's what's happening, is that people are shifting and moving to those states, the big red states, and California, New York, and Illinois are taking the big hit. So that's what I'm saying. He can celebrate the 47,000 all he wants, but you look at the U-Haul data, you look at the United Van Lines data, you look at the IRS data, and people are clearly leaving Illinois in record numbers. Maybe 2023 was a slowdown. I don't know. You've got some migrants coming in, the international migrants coming in, so that's a bit of an offset. But the trend is horrible for Illinois.
Talking with Ted Dabrowski. He is the president of Wirepoints here with us. And of course, you can catch us live each and every weekday morning with Bishop on Air. Ted, you guys have reports at Wirepoints that breaks down kind of 2023 in the space of crime and violence in Chicago. Of course, a lot of headlines. Murders are down in Chicago. Crime's up, but murders are down when it comes to burglaries, robberies, and carjackings and things. Those are spiking. But I guess just kind of break down what you guys found in comparing Illinois' reduction in murders to really the rest of the country.
Yeah, and Greg, this is an important point too, because there's several big issues. This is an election year, of course. We got the DNC, the Democratic National Convention in 2024 in Chicago. So you're going to hear all kinds of spin right? So, this is a big reason why we put out this data. And, we use government data. It's funny. They'll spin the government data one way. We'll try to show it to you the way we see it. So yeah, good news, if you want to call it good news, and is that Illinois' murder rate, murders were down 13%. So that's about 92 fewer murders. And, everything else equal, that's good. The bad news is that, throughout the country, there were record drops in murders. So Chicago wasn't special. In fact, we're going to be for the 12th year in the row, Chicago is going to lead the country in the total number of homicides. So it's bad. It's bad. I mean, we are leading the country for 12 years in a row in homicides. And when you compare us to our big city peers, New York and LA, we have murder rates that are far, far higher than theirs. So we stand out. There's something wrong, and we've talked about it a lot, but there's something wrong with our approach to criminal justice and how we treat criminals, and it shows up in the numbers. So, and not only that, Greg, yes, homicides are down, but overall major crimes are up 16% this year, after being up 40% last year. So robberies are up, car thefts are way up, aggravated assaults are up. Everything is up except for murders.
Ted Dabrowski with us from Wirepoints. Of course, people can find the work that you guys do, and I'm flashing some of the graphics you put together based off of government data showing the comparison of Chicago to other major cities across the country. Clearly, there's going to be a lot more to be said about all of that, but what is the best path forward in your estimation to combat the violent crime in Chicago?
Well, there's a whole chain. We've talked about this a lot, where it's almost riskless to commit a crime in Illinois, in Chicago in particular, because you don't get arrested, you don't get prosecuted, and if you probably don't get sentenced. So you're just right back on the streets. There's a revolving door. So the first big thing, I think, is you got to show the backing of the police. If the police don't feel like they're protected, if they feel like they're the bad guys, then they're not going to do their job. And that's been a big problem under Lightfoot. Johnson hasn't been giving the strong support to police officers. And then two, so you have to have more arrests. Number two, you got to prosecute. And Kim Foxx, she's not running this year, so we're going to have a new district attorney. The question is, will we prosecute crimes? Kim Foxx has wanted to treat criminals like victims, and until that changes, the criminals are right back on the street again. And then we got to look at sentencing. We got to put these bad guys behind bars. If we don't, again, they know they can commit crimes over and over again. And that's what we have, is a revolving door. And these kids, many times kids, are right back on the streets the next day committing another crime.
Ted Dabrowski, Wirepoints. Again, the website, wirepoints.org. Greatly appreciate you taking the time with us this morning. We'll connect again in the very near future, all right?
Thank you, Greg.
It is Bishop on Air. Again, thanks to Ted for joining us, and you can find his work and the work from Wirepoints online, wirepoints.org, so make it happen, all right?